PrivacyCast, the Data Privacy Podcast. We bring to you the season 1 of PrivacyCast. Being here, you will understand the technology that runs data privacy. I'm your host Akarsh, and let us welcome Abilash. Abilash is a privacy technologist. He leads Truthshare.tech, where he's building India's first privacy enhancing technology stack. He's an ex Aruba employee where he started his journey on zero trust. And today we can see that he has come a long way. He's a Bangalorean and also has graduated from IIM Bangalore. That you can introduce yourself a bit.
Hey Akash, thank you so much for having me in PrivacyCast. It's a pleasure. I hope this is going to be a great beginning. I personally believe that this is a privacy decade. We are just getting into a privacy decade. So it's a beautiful time to start a PrivacyCast. And looking forward to a good discussion.
Thanks, Abilash. Abilash, we're excited to have you with us today. And let us talk about privacy in technology. So, Abilash, what is privacy to you?
So it's a pretty good question. It's more like, quantum mechanics where it has been, everybody has his own definition of what it is. For me, privacy is something which is very fundamental. So I think it is a very key weapon for humanity to protect its freedom. That's how I will define privacy. So privacy as such, it has been always part of nature. It has been part of the ecosystem. For example, camouflaging is a very natural way of maintaining privacy by animals, right? I generally look at inspirations in nature because it is that aspect which we use to build technologies. Basically, in nature, you can find a lot of things which are directly related, which is practical, and which builds up on a lot of game theory aspects. So if you look at game theory is all about how a predator and prey play a game, and how the best succeeds or survives.
Right.
So that is the exact same thing that is happening in the digital world as well. If you just take a step back and see. So this, what I see is evolving, is that we are entering into an era where algorithms are going to be the revenue generators. Now, for algorithms to run, you require data. And when the data once data is available to algorithms, you cannot stop an algorithm from achieving what it can achieve. So the only way we can protect humanity and humanity's free will is by controlling algorithms with some leash, and that leash is privacy. So you can, whatever you feed the demon is what it will become. So if you privacy preserve the data and then you give it to the AI system, you will be in control.
Right.
If we don't do it, and if we give the direct data because of greed or business, whatever business models we do it, we are not going to be in control in a very, very short time.
So privacy is a leash to the organization so that they don't misuse our data. If you summarize it.
Yeah.
That thumbs up.
So
That
there
thumbs
was
up. Yeah. Yeah, please.
Yeah, so I wanted to mention one very interesting fact here. Since we spoke about predator and prey, there was a very interesting time in the evolution of life in the planet, which is called as Cambrian explosion. This was like 500 million years ago, when life form was predominantly, just multicellular organisms, but not very much evolved. So what happened in this Cambrian evolution explosion was that in a very, very short period of time, there were numerous new forms of life which evolved. Why I'm telling this example is that during the Cambrian explosion is when anthropologists say that vision developed in life forms. Before that, there was no vision. When vision developed, the predators could see the prey from distance, and they started micro-targeting the prey. Now, this created a evolutionary pressure on the prey to develop new tools to protect itself. like growing spines or camouflaging and things like those. Now this is exactly what is happening in the data ecosystem as well, and that's where privacy is becoming very, very important, because the predator, which is organizations having huge amount of data, are targeting are micro targeting either citizens or customers of them or from other customers. So they are trying to make maximum use of data and people as an asset, which is very dangerous.
Right.
And we see that it's repercussion on democracies as well across the globe, and that's why governments are trying to come up with regulations. Now this is going to result in a lot of new technologies coming up, new ways, new business models coming up with these regulations coming in, how data needs to be managed. So I think um, at the high level, data privacy is a weapon to protect the free will of humanity.
Right. I think that's where we have reached today. And when we look at all the regulations that are around us, and even when we talk about the example of Cambridge Analytica, which happened in the US, I think we all can reach to the same conclusion where we need a leash and to stop becoming the bigger prey.
Yeah.
So yeah, that
See,
make
Cambridge Analytica creating a Cambrian explosion.
right.
What a irony.
So what do you think? Like how do you think technology will show the path to data privacy in coming time?
Right. So just to take a step back and see. So generally, it's very important to take a step back and see how things are structured, and that generally gives a very beautiful perspective of where we are heading. So, in my perspective, the 90s was the beta phase of internet. It was a beta launch for internet the whole decade, where we had dial-up modems, ISDNs coming up and things like those, where we were trying to connect to the internet. Web pages were like a few kilobytes and things like those. So that was the beta, internet beta. Then 2000s was coming up with the right devices, next level devices, for example iPad, iPhone, etc., and with usable kind of internet.
Right.
Then 2010s was about scaling this to global level. Platforms became really big. They started gathering data at a global level. AI and big data become really powerful, and this created new disruptions in the ecosystem. So people started sensing it, and GDPR is a watershed moment. So this was what, in my perspective, was the whole of 2010s. Now, this is beautifully setting up the stage for 2020, which I believe is the privacy decade or the beginning of a privacy era. And currently, we are in the stone age of privacy. We don't have a lot of technologies and tools to actually uh, control how data can be managed. We are just giving the data out, and we have no way to control it. We are trying to do, very stone age kind of tools of trying to do a discovery, but all these are half-hearted attempts at this point. Whatever we do, so there are a lot of challenges, a lot of gaps, and we don't know how to actually fill it.
Right.
um,
And I
so
think
technology.
adding on to you, I think all the technologies that we have right now were never focused on on giving privacy to the consumer, right? It was more on making business, and now we have changed again in this. In if you look at 2018 to 2020, we have again started looking back to our privacy. So I totally
Absolutely.
second you there.
Absolutely. So it was predominantly regulatory driven, and that too, even before this, people were just worried about money, how I can make more money. I don't care about people's data, what I'm making use of or
Right.
abusing it. That was the case. But at the end of it, if it is those businesses which have high moral standards, high value proposition for customers, is the ones which are going to survive. Look at Apple. Apple is a classic example for privacy. There can still be leaks here and there, but at the high level, Apple is a golden standard at a hardware level for taking care of privacy, and it's almost $1 trillion company now.
Right.
So if companies hold on not just to law is a lower bar. If companies hold on to a moral bar, which is much higher, where you have to respect your customers, the privacy of your customers, and you don't need a regulation to make you follow something which is moral and ethical. So if companies have these moral and ethical values, and they follow privacy irrespective of whether regulation is there in a country or not, in the long term they are going to be really really successful, and these companies are the ones which will invest in privacy technologies.
Right. And I think
And
we have
hence
a beautiful
technologies have a very big role to play.
yeah, we have beautiful example with us right now. I think if we just look a few months back, uh, the privacy policy changes in WhatsApp has triggered downloads of Signal. Signal became the first free app, like on the top for downloads in free apps, and I think second or third in the uh, in the total apps in the App Store. So that totally tells us how uh, it rather proves that it is already happening, and we don't have to wait for another year or 2 years to see an era of privacy. We already into it. Everybody's talking about it. We all need, it's a right for us now.
Absolutely. The challenge is the business model. Now, how do you make profit or sustain such businesses? And I think that's where decentralization comes and plays a big role. Decentralized ecosystems. I am not sure that is blockchain and cryptocurrency are facing their own battle in different regulations. We don't know, that also is parallelly evolving. So now these two topics are very close to my heart. Um, but cryptocurrency, it has its own challenges from a perspective that, because central banks are directly they get power only by means of printing money, and you suddenly say that money will be mined in a network, they will lose their power, governments will lose their power, and that's where these decentralized systems have challenges. But I think what I believe is there will be a middle path which will be struck, and once a middle path is struck, then it will open up a lot of new business models. Because systems like Signal also needs revenue generation mechanism to even to sustain it when billions of people are using it. So the problem the last for the 1 decade has been predominantly uh, businesses coming up with business incorrect business models which are not scalable over a long period of time in an ethical and a moral way.
Right.
Now that has to change, and that requires technology support as well. Whether you take blockchain, you take privacy enhancing compute, or any of them, technology will show the path to a privacy era which is emerging.
Right. So Abhilash,
Policy
Abhilash,
will.
you are saying that even WhatsApp is too extreme in taking away the privacy, and Signal is too extreme in giving the privacy.
No, what I'm trying to say is the underlying business model. That the solution is okay. See,
Okay.
the problem with WhatsApp is that though they are not looking into the conversation as such, they have so many. Even if they just look into the encrypted message, just look at encrypted message, just flow of messages, they would know that okay, you are awake at this time, you are sleeping at this time, you don't message at this time, you don't move at this time, you are at this place at this time, you are in part of these groups where these people are there. Then you take it and connect it with your Facebook, then you go and connect it with Instagram. Then you can basically remap everything that is being conversed without actually decrypting the data. So
Right.
that's where the privacy leak comes in, not just decrypting the data, but using the clues that they are getting from this metadata uh, from from WhatsApp, and then using it to connect with what you see for the similar group of friends in Facebook and similar group of friends in Instagram
Mm,
and other platforms.
right.
They would learn exactly what you are doing or predict 70 to 80% what you are going to speak.
Right, Abhilash. So Abhilash, I think we are getting a perspective on how difficult, or I think rather we are developing a bigger perspective as to when we are thinking about a business model, it has to embed privacy, and then it has to generate money if in case a data, personal data flows into it today. And that
Mm.
totally makes sense. So coming on to our next question, uh, where we want to talk more about what's in the future for us. Like, right, when we talk about privacy, let's say we follow all the regulations that are there right now. We become at our best moral grounds. So how will that world look like in another few years or 3 years?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. Um, so there are a lot of moving parts, and it's a very fluid ecosystem as of today.
Okay.
I'd say a pretty blue ocean from an entrepreneurial perspective, but uh, because if you look at it, so they call this as a iron triangle. Okay, so whenever there is an ecosystem, there are three sides. One is people, one is policymakers and regulators, and one is the incumbent. So these are three sides of a triangle, and for you to break into an ecosystem, you have to have some support, uh, at least in two of them. If it is good, it's good if you have all three, but it is generally very difficult. So when you are speaking about emerging data systems, uh, in a data ecosystem, what I see is that people are slowly seeing the value of privacy. You can see, as you rightly said, there is a huge movement of people to signal, just after WhatsApp putting up that they will be getting some data, though they will not be looking into the encrypted messages as such. Um, so people are aware. So one of the sides, people are aware. On the other side, regulators are already threatened by non-availability of privacy. They are basically threatened with the big tech companies. They are threatened on every possible angle. They think that, okay, without the platforms, let's take the case of Trump being banned from Twitter. That is, he has no means to reach to people today. He's been blacklisted from all major platforms, and without that, a sitting president of United States could not reach to his own people. So that's the power of technology today. And so regulation and regulators are already really afraid, and they are looking for solutions to solve these problems at the macroeconomic level. And on the other side, you have incumbents, and incumbents are also under a large amount of pressure, uh, in terms of congressional hearings, or in terms of penalties with GDPR, or people just moving away from those platforms,
Right.
for which you won't believe will happen in any other day, where there is so much of network effect which has already kicked in. People to leave that platform, go to some other platform, is unthinkable, but it
Right.
is happening. So these things are this is basically opening up all three dimensions of a data ecosystem, or any ecosystem for that matter. And I think it's a tipping point for uh, disruption. And
Right. And I think it's so
I'm
easy
sure
now.
there are,
It's so easy now to to find a breach for your email ID. You just go to the website called Have I Been Pawned, and you just type your website and type your Gmail address or any address in, and try to see if your password has been stolen, or your data is available in the dark web. And it's
yeah.
so easy for a consumer or a user to actually check back. And this happened with me. I was in a engagement in Qatar, and a friend of mine, he checked. I asked him to check his address, and after that he got so shocked that all of his health data was available online, in the dark web. And that's when he uninstalled that application
Oh.
right away. And that scared him, and that scared me also, because before that I was not involved with health applications. But if you look at
Mm.
technology's application into our day-to-day lives, as it is increasing, if you just look at Apple Watch, where everything that we do is getting monitored, right? So I think the world, that leash that we were talking about right in the starting, is
Yeah.
very is a necessity now. It cannot not be there, right? It has to be there.
Absolutely, because with that, what happens is whatever you do is can be manipulated with an um, algorithm. That is the way whom you want to speak with, what you want to do in the next 5 minutes, what you want to buy, um, who are your friends, where you want to go and study, where you want to go in the weekend. Uh, Everything, literally everything, is being decided by algorithms. So this is really scary, and we actually, without knowing what is happening, our thoughts and emotions are being manipulated.
Right,
So
Abhilash.
that's what is
So
challenging.
Abhilash, I think one point that we both are trying to point out here is, if I look at Facebook, right, and let's take an example. If I look at Facebook and I like some content, right, then it automatically shows me, that algorithm automatically shows me that if you like this, you may like this also, right? And that it starts creating a loop where the user gets tricked, right? Your loop becomes that single loop, right? And I think that is how uh, companies are taking advantage of the users now by throwing them that bone, and then asking them to be there with them for a longer time.
Correct. So that is the reason for so much of polarization that you see in today's ecosystem.
Right.
It is called as filtering bubble in the social media parlance, where um, you keep moving towards the polar ends. Though you are neutral today, uh, you are slightly to the left or slightly to the right, but they will feed you the moment they know that you are slightly left or slightly right. They will keep feeding you only content which you like,
Right.
and they won't show you uh, information from the other side, which increases your bias and moves you to the extreme of a side which you typically intend not to be. But
Right.
because of these algorithms, and they don't want to show you what you don't like, they want to show you only what you like it's
Exactly.
a typical case of spoiling a child, right?
Exactly. And I think,
um,
Abhilash, we all have that friend where our friendship got broken because of the polarization. If I am correct with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah. So this is exactly the reason why we started Truthshare, where we wanted to, protect privacy at the same time, ensure that right things are in place. But that's a big story, maybe for some other time. But yeah, so that's where the privacy enhancing technologies become very, very important, where you can stay neutral and ensure that whatever people are doing are at least not illegal. That
Right.
is, uh, people have the rights. The freedom of expression is very important. At the same time, we don't none of the freedoms which are guaranteed by the constitution in any of the countries are absolute rights. There is difference between fundamental rights and absolute rights. So when something is illegal, that is, a terrorist does not have freedom of speech from a perspective of spreading hatred, or um, a thief does not have right to say, I can go to the free world, why should I be
Right.
caged? Things like those. So there is nothing called as absolute right. Given that we are abiding law, that is, we can do anything. So
Definitely.
this balance, how do you strike this balance in the digital world? Now that is a very difficult question.
Right. Abhilash,
uh,
I think we were just talking about Truthshare. And I think we have talked a lot about how technology enables where that leash has to come. And I think Truthshare
mm,
gives a very good example on this. So can you just
mm.
take one example of how that problem gets solved for a consumer, right? By that platform that you are building.
Yeah, so I will speak about what we are doing currently.
Okay.
Social media is a distant dream. It's a utopia where we want to go, but I will try to speak about what we are trying to do now. So what is emerging is a suite of technologies called as privacy enhancing compute technologies, where you have input privacy, policy enforcement, and output privacy technologies.
Right.
So we are building products across the spectrum using different technologies for different use cases. Um, we have built products for output privacy. The first product is on output privacy, where we are doing some cutting edge anonymization tools,
Right.
because we think anonymization is a very, very important first step in a privacy journey, because when you're sharing data, because sharing data is very important for all businesses. Without sharing data, businesses cannot survive. It is like supply chain in the modern era, supply chain. So data is a new blood. So without sharing data, organizations cannot survive in a data ecosystem.
Definitely.
But when the data needs to be shared, the privacy of the user is very important. So our vision is that if data is the new oil and internet is a new oil field, privacy preserving technologies are the new refineries. And only after getting refined, the data should hit the AI engines so that they can run the business or the economy. Today, what is happening is, without this um, data privacy technologies, we are feeding the data to AI systems, which is resulting in privacy violations. So
Okay.
yeah, that's where we are trying to solve. So we are bringing
Right.
technologies like data anonymization and multi-party compute and other things into the
Definitely.
ecosystem. That's what we are trying to build. Yeah.
So, so Abhilash, I think we have had we have had a long chat right now, and I think that's the discussion that we always have together about the problems that are there in the market and the problems that we privacy professionals, and especially you from your company, are trying to solve.
Right.
I think we have a long way to go, and there is a long way for the market to catch up with us as well. So I
Right.
think I'll come on to our special round today, which is the rapid fire round. And
Okay.
the rule is that you can only take 5 seconds to answer these questions. Are you ready for this, Abilash?
Okay. Yeah.
So
Fire it
question
on.
one, question one is here for you. So this is an important question. What is your Facebook password?
uh, Zuckerberg intersection Tim Cook $123.
Okay, I thought you'll say Brian Acton. Okay, so coming on to our next question. Do
Yeah.
you actually believe in privacy?
It is like, the Scrodinger's cat. You can believe, if you cannot believe, it's up to you what to choose.
Okay,
But it is like, Matrix, red pill and blue pill. You can stay in your la la land if you take the blue pill, but the fun is taking the red pill. That privacy is there.
right. WhatsApp or Signal? Which one are you using right now? The honesty,
Um,
please.
Signal by choice, WhatsApp by compulsion.
Okay, so you're using both then.
Yeah.
Is data privacy a thing? Do you think it's still a thing? Right? It started with like a big shot in 2018. Do you think it's still there's a fire here?
Yeah, of course. There is going to be a big bang.
Okay, I think that's there for today. Uh, uh, Thanks, Abhilash, for your time. Thanks for educating us on privacy in technology. To know more about the technology applications of data privacy, reach out to Abhilash or log on to truthshare.tech. Stay tuned to know more about technology that runs data privacy at the rate PrivacyCast.